Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. In this video, I'm going to be talking you through a poem by Thomas Hardy called Where the Picnic Was. We're going to be focusing on the content, key contextual factors that have influenced his writing, and I'm going to give you some details about the form of the poetry. If you want some detailed analysis of key quotes, check out my next video coming your way. But for now, let's get started. Okay, so let's talk briefly about what this poem is about. It's an autobiographical poem. It involves Thomas Hardy as the narrator, recounting going back to a place where he and his wife and two friends used to picnic. And he thinks back to the past when they were there together, and then he looks at the site as it is now and kind of reflects on who he is in this moment. There's a lot of juxtaposition in this poem between the past and the present, between happiness and sadness, because this poem has been written after his wife has died. So we're going to have a little look at some relevant context for you now. So Thomas Hardy was born in 1840 and died in 1928. So he would have been influenced by aspects of Romanticism, etc., although he's not necessarily counted as a romantic poet in the way that, say, Wordsworth was. He's a little bit later than that, but that kind of solace and joy in nature is relevant. The poem itself was written in 1912, so early 20th century. Now, Thomas Hardy was an incredibly famous novelist and poet. He wrote a lot of his material about the southwest of England, and I've not put on there, but short stories as well. That were all kind of around the area, but in kind of fictitious towns and places. He was married to a woman called Emma Gifford, and towards the end of their married life, their relationship definitely struggled. Some people wonder whether that's to do with his gaining popularity and fame, but they did have quite a difficult relationship towards the end. And then one day she died suddenly, very, very, very suddenly. And that was in 1912, which, funnily enough, is when this poem was written. In fact, this poem was written as a series of poems, of elegies, that were all sort of dedicated to her, whether that stems from a sense of kind of guilt. Now, at the beginning of this collection, which is literally poems from 1912 to 13, he included a little epigraph, which is like a short little phrase that comes at the very beginning. It's normally meant to sort of introduce an idea or a theme. And this is what it is. So he wrote it in Latin, which I will try and pronounce, Veteris vestigia flammae. I sound like I'm doing Harry Potter spell. And this roughly translates to the traces of an old fire. And that's really, really important, particularly if you think about fire being symbolic of sort of love and passion. So it's like he's looking for the traces of it. When you look at the poem, see if you can find references to ideas about an old fire, perhaps being symbolic for love. Two other things I'm just going to draw to your attention. This poem is autobiographical. He is focusing on a particular time, and he is referencing two of his friends who are also poets, Yeats and Newbolt. So when he talks about the four of them, he's talking about himself, Emma, Yeats and Newbolt. And I have just doffed my cap here to the Industrial Revolution. Obviously, we are writing in 1912, so we're well past it. But like I said, he would have been influenced by kind of romantic poetry that would have been very pro-nature, very anti-industry. And there's just this little moment in the end of the poem that perhaps references the Industrial Revolution, or certainly negative ideas to do with industry and kind of overly populated cities. Very quickly on form, the most important thing for you to remember is that this is an elegy, which is a type of poem that is dedicated to someone who has died. So it's a poem of mourning, but sometimes a celebration of life, but it tends to be sort of mournful in tone. So we've got three stanzas that are of unequal length. The first two stanzas are 9 lines long, whereas the final stanza has an additional 2, which perhaps is like the key kind of boom, like emotion of the poem. We'll talk about that in my next video, but it's definitely worth looking. 9, 9, 11. Well, what are the last 2 lines? There's an irregular rhyme scheme. There are moments where you get the odd rhyming couplet, you get the odd moment which is A, B, A, B. This is very much, I think, to do with this sort of, you know, unpredictability of life. I think it is to do in some places with the sort of the slow trudge of him in his present day, particularly like in this little bit here. You know, I think this little line, like, I slowly climb through winter mire, it's quite slow, it's quite painful, it's him on his own. Same can be said for the irregular meter. There's lots and lots and lots of enjambment that adds to either the faster pace of happier times or the slower pace of the present day. It's all there and easy to talk about. So do make some notes on form, because it will make you stand above everyone else, which is what we want. Okay, that's it from me. If you want some analysis of key quotations, I will do you 5, and that will be in the next video coming your way. So if you haven't subscribed, click that button and then you'll know when it's here. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you so much for watching. Happy revising.